I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing to you our outstanding superintendent that leads this very large district called Elk Grove Unified School District. He's very innovative in his leadership, and he firmly believes in training and developing the best and brightest educators who also recognize the importance of our students' backgrounds and their culture and their relevance in their education. His leadership approach and vision to improve the academic performance for socioeconomically disadvantaged students has benefited thousands of students in the greater Sacramento region for nearly 30 years. One of his most often heard beliefs in education is that in order for students to improve their performance, the adults need to get better at what they do. This belief makes him one of our district's strongest advocates for professional development and lifelong learning. That's why he's here today. My hope and our superintendent's hope is that each of us walks away from today's pre-service training alive to the hopes, dreams, and challenges of your students and your colleagues, and that we are able to see the humanity in others and develop an outward mindset as we prepare our students to be college, career, and life-ready graduates. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome Chris Hoffman to the stage.
All right, so welcome. Geraldine talked about. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a review, and then I'm gonna build off of kind of the next steps with regards to the Armiger work. One thing about me is I'm never the brightest person in the room. I say even when I'm by myself, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and so I'm certainly not the smartest guy in the room today. And so when I get hold of an idea, one of the things that I focus on is trying to make sure that it's not a book of the month or an idea of the month, and then we just go on to something else. So when I find something that I think has great value, I have a tendency to dive deeply into it. And so that's why what you're going to see today is a little bit of a review. There may be some brand new people in the room, and if you're brand new to Elk Grove Unified, welcome. We're glad to have you. If you're one of our returning folks and you saw this last year, you may have had the introduction to it, and that was the last time you saw it. And you may be one of the 2,000 people that we actually trained this past school year with regards to the Armiger work. We actually trained 2,000 employees across the district just in this last calendar year, including 180 custodians that was part of the training for last week. So we really are taking this work across the entire group. So now if I can find my little, yeah, there's one button on here I'm not supposed to touch. We'll see what happens about that. Okay, so we used the last week we talked about mindset before process, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And I said, something is much better than trying to be a little bit creative with things. You see the B4 is kind of cute. I would have just wrote out BEFORE, and I would have, is there an E on the end or not an E on the end? I made a big deal out of it. But mindset before process, we do a lot of really good things in Elk Grove Unified. The history, social science, the new curriculum is just a new one of those things. My belief system is using that process, using anything else that we do within the district, if we have the right mindset, if we have an outward mindset when we go to do that work, the chances of us getting the outcomes we want for our kids improve dramatically. So the idea is mindset before process, and that's what we're going to spend a little bit of time on. So these are the books. Some of you may have seen them, had the opportunity to read them. The first two are actually the same book. It just they went back and made a new cover because the old cover, it was a pretty drab looking guy. It was like really serious, and serious. So that's the book I have, and mine's all beat up. But you may get, if you go to the trainings this year, you actually got the new blue and white version, which is just a little bit nicer to look at. But those are the books. Anatomy of Peace, it's a little bit like Star Wars in the old days. Anatomy of Peace is a prequel, and the Outward Mindset is the one that came after. So there's a whole series here. If you're a Star Wars person, that might help you jump in. So I always ask the question, so why do we do this work? Why do we do this work? Why do we choose to be educators? And I say that is, you chose to be an educator. You chose to be here. You're all smart, talented people. You could have done anything you wanted to do, but you chose to do this work. I thank you for making that choice, because I don't think there's any more important work. And we're here to improve outcomes for kids. Bottom line, we're here to improve outcomes for kids. And the only way I know how to do that, in my simple view of the world, is if you and I get better at the work we do every day. I believe the kids are already performing to the level we're able to take them. Again, like I said last year, that's making a huge assumption. That's making the assumption that you're bringing your best to work every single day. And you're giving your best to our kids every single day. And if we're consistently giving our best to our kids every single day, they are performing to the level we're able to take them. And if we want them to perform at a higher level, each of us has to get better. That includes me, and that includes each of you. So we talked about the idea, mindset before process. Beginning of the school year, kind of a typical time. You have the beginning of the calendar year, and I drive by a Cal Fit every day. And in January, the parking lot's full, and you can't find a parking space anywhere. And by about mid-February, you can park anywhere you want, right? So the idea is, this is for us, people don't think of the beginning of the year, but for us, July is the beginning of the year. Opportunity, thinking about your new class, thinking about new curriculum, thinking about something you want to do better this year than you did last year. So the idea is, what are those goals? What are those things that you're thinking about right now? And I would encourage you to think about your mindset prior to setting a new goal and just changing your behavior. So a little self-awareness. This is going to be an opportunity for you to do a little bit of soul searching, thinking about yourself a little bit and your impact on other people. And that's where we're going to spend a little bit of time. So here's the review. So if you're brand new to Elk Grove Unified, raise your hand. Okay, so you folks haven't seen this yet. Others have seen it, and others may be living it every day. I try to, but I'm not quite there yet. So the first piece is there's two mindsets. The first one is an outward mindset. In an outward mindset, I'm open to other people. Other people matter like I matter. I'm kind of important. I'm important to my kids, and I'm important to my wife, and I have a role within Elk Grove Unified to serve 63,000 kids and to serve 7,000 adults, and that's important. And each of you is really important. Within your family, within your classroom, within your school, within your community connection, whatever it is that you do outside of being an educator. And we're all important, and we all matter. And each of us has hopes, dreams, and challenges. Sometimes I'm not alive to other people's hopes, dreams, and challenges because I'm focused on myself. But as human beings, each of us have hopes, dreams, and challenges. It's part of what makes us human. It's part of what keeps us up at night. It's what wakes us up at 2 in the morning, and we don't go back to sleep. We're excited about something, or something's turning in our head and we're worried about it. Got a challenge we're dealing with, right? That's part of being human. In a best case scenario, when I'm outward and open to the humanity of other people, I have responsibilities. I have things that I need to get done. The trick is, can I do that work in a way in which the hopes, dreams, and challenges of the other people are open to me, and I know what they are? Sometimes I'm not that way. Sometimes I turn inward. Sometimes I'm focused on my challenges, my hopes, my dreams, and not other people's. I have 7 bosses. Anybody else have 7 bosses? No whining, right? I have 7 bosses, and they're all elected, and they could change every few years. They could change, so it's a different. So they tell me and things that I have to do. They put things on my plate that are really important, and I have to focus on those things sometimes. And if I focus on those things without keeping you in mind, or without keeping the kids in mind, or without keeping my family in mind, I can get myself in this kind of situation. And in this situation, other people don't matter like I matter. I get into a place where I'm kind of self-important. And I'm focused on the stuff the board wants me to do. I'm focused on stuff my wife wants me to do, and that's a long list. But I'm not focused on or alive to other people. Do all people always have hopes, dreams, and challenges? All people always have hopes, dreams, and challenges. When I'm inward, I'm not alive to them. They're there, I'm just not alive to it. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm not making decisions with those things in mind. And when I'm there, I kind of treat people in three different ways. One way is I can treat people like a vehicle. The board wants me to get something done. It's important to them. I want to make them happy. And maybe I just find somebody who can do something for me that would be really, really useful to me checking off a box, even though I know they have something else that they're responsible for or another challenge that they're dealing with. But I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about them helping me get what I need done so I can meet the needs of my 7 bosses. That's what I do when I'm inward. That's how I treat my family sometimes. Sometimes I think of people like they're obstacles, just in my way. Anybody ever been treated like an obstacle today? I was almost an obstacle when I tried to open up the gate earlier today. I was in the way, so I had to get out of the way quick. The one that scares me the most is irrelevancy. If you treat somebody as if they're irrelevant, or you're treated as if you're irrelevant. Tammy spoke to some of our kids today. Some of our kids feel this way sometimes. We all feel this way sometimes, based on how other people see us. Part of the pieces are we alive to when we're this way towards other people. So the big piece in this whole thing is when I am outward, I'm focused on Elk Grove Unified. I'm focused on my staff and my team. I'm focused on my kids and my family and my community. When I'm inward, it's just about me. And I get there sometimes, and I used the example last time. It may have happened today. It may have probably most certainly happened today with the gate being closed on the way in. When you drive, how do you think about other people in the world when they're on the road with you? Are you open to their hopes, dreams, and challenges? Where they need to be right now and who they need to be with? Or are they simply in your way? So for me, the biggest and easiest example is when I'm inward is driving the car. I will tell you, since I've done this work, driving is easier. It's less stressful. I let things go in a way that I just didn't let them go before. I listen to more music on the radio if I end up at the light a little bit longer. And it just makes my day flow. I just don't, I used to get out of my car and just be a raving idiot. I still do it from time to time, don't get me wrong. You cut me off, and I made from time to time. But when you're the superintendent of Elk Grove Unified, you can't use your hand signals. Because you never know who just cut you off. And even if they deserve it, they're like, hey, that was Mr. Hoffman. Okay, so yes, I can't do that. So this mindset piece is a choice. You do have an opportunity to think about this. This isn't something that's done to you. And oftentimes we use that. Well, if the other person would just, then I would. But in this work, the choice is yours. And so I'm going to go through these very, very quickly. There's 2 tools that we talk about with regards to the mindset work. And this one might help you as you're thinking through your classroom setup. You think about your school, your office, wherever you're going to be in the next few days. Is the idea of the triangle and the pyramid is how much time are you spending helping things go right versus how much time are you spending running around and correcting things? How much time are you spending helping things go right? And how much time are you running around putting out fires all day? The Armiger Work, the idea is if you're spending more time building relationships, listening and learning to people, and teaching and communicating, you're going to spend less time having to correct because people understand what the expectations are. The relationships exist so that people feel safe in doing the work. So there's kind of 3 rules that work with the pyramid. First is you need to start at the bottom. This blue box represents an outward mindset. It would be red if you were inward. And so the first piece is you have to be outward in your thought process around people. And so the first step is that. But then as you work through, if you're talking to somebody, and I've done this before, where I was in a situation with a staff member that I was working with, and I'd been thinking about, the person had been having a real challenge, and I'd been thinking about this for a while. And I came up with a couple of questions that I thought, okay, if I ask these questions, this is going to allow the person to kind of open up and give me some information so that I can provide the help that I want to provide. And so I really worked on this. We set up a meeting, and we started talking. And I asked a really, really good question, and I was really, really sincere, and I got a really, really short answer back. And I waited a little bit longer, because I heard if you wait a little bit longer, sometimes people will give you a little bit more information, and no more information. It's like, So, but I had another question, right? So in fact, I had another really good question, so I asked another really good question. And I didn't get much more. A little frustrating. I started to get a little frustrated because I'd put a lot of time and thought into this, but it wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. The pyramid popped back in my head and said, okay, well, if I'm listening and learning, listening and trying to learn, and the person isn't providing me the information that I think I need, why might that be? And it might be because I haven't established a relationship with that person where they feel safe doing that. So I need to back off. Okay, so let's not talk about the issue yet. Let's talk about who you are and what you want to. So we just kind of backed off a little bit and started to talk about what her goals and hopes and dreams and challenges were, and I started to learn more about her. And as I did that, I didn't do it that day, but a couple weeks later, I went back and asked the same questions, and after her seeing me for a couple of weeks, really care about her and reference back some of the things I learned, she opened up to me, and I learned some things, and we were able to help address the issue. So the idea of the pyramid is, if there's somewhere where you're stuck, you're trying to get something done, the chances are your answer to that is lower on the pyramid. And in the end, mindset is what matters most. If you're inward, you can do any of those things with an inward mindset, and you're not going to get very far. So this is one I'm going to spend a little bit of time on today. So this is about you as an individual working in Elk Grove Unified School District. I use the idea of the Armiger Work. Ford Motor Company has done this Armiger Work. Ford Motor Company is doing this work so they can build a better quality vehicle at a higher profit margin so they can make more money. That's their goal. In Elk Grove Unified, we're doing the work to improve outcomes for kids. That's why we're doing it. People say, oh, this is about treating each other nicer. I'll say, we probably will treat each other a little better as a result of this work, but the reason we're doing it is we can get better outcomes for kids. And this is a measure for you to see how you can be part of that. So imagine that's you. I know it's a guy in the middle, so it could be anybody, but that's what's in the middle. So we'll use that as me right now. So this is me, and I have a lot of people that I'm responsible for and that I have an impact on. Again, I have 7 bosses. Can anybody beat that? Anybody have more than 7 bosses? I didn't think so. Okay, I have people that I serve. I serve you. I serve kids. I have peers. I have other superintendents that I meet with and I bounce ideas off of for help. And then I have my cabinet that reports directly to me. Those are the people that I have an impact on a regular basis. And you see inside triangles and outside triangles, right? What are outside triangles? What do they represent? What does that represent? Hopes, dreams, and challenges of who? Other people, right? Hopes, dreams, and challenges of other people. Inside triangles is my work, the stuff I have to get done. And so this is a part of the training that you'll do in the 100-200 series. And this slide, I did the training 4 times before I saw this slide. And for me as the superintendent of Elk Grove Unified, I wanted to have the opportunity for every employee in the district to see what this looks like to me. So is it clear that the diagram on the left is a diagram of an outward mindset? Outside triangles exist, inside triangles exist, and those inside triangles are pointed towards the people that they're trying to do the work for. I know their hopes, dreams, and challenges, I know my work, and we're trying to get all of that done. The one on the right, can you see that that might represent someone who has an inward mindset? Are there any outside triangles at all? No outside triangles. Do the people have hopes, dreams, and challenges? They have them. I'm not alive to them. And my triangles are pointed where? At me. So very, very, very clearly, this is an inside, someone that's inward at the time. My question is that still inward? Are there any outside triangles? No outside triangles. So this person is not alive to the hopes, dreams, and challenges of other people. But I think this person is working really, really hard. Doing what? They're doing things that they think are of value to other people. But they don't know whether those things are valuable or not. This is the scariest slide in the entire deck for me. If we have an entire organization that is working really, really hard, but focused on themselves and not alive to the outside triangles, the hopes, dreams, and challenges of the people they work with, that's not a place I want to work. That's a place that drains energy out of people. People go home whooped, but they don't know whether they had a positive impact on anybody the entire day. So we're going to do this one, we'll do very quickly, because you're going to get this deeper in the work down the road. But the idea of SAM is the idea of seeing others, once you know their hopes, dreams, and challenges, adjusting your efforts, and then in the end, checking back with that person to see if what you did actually had an impact or not. Because you can make an adjustment for somebody, and it seems like a really good idea, and then in the end, it wasn't helpful to that person at all. And you keep doing it, you're not helping. So again, we're going to have opportunities to meet lots of moms and dads, and obviously lots of kids. And they're not all going to show up on the first day at the first setting with every box checked and every piece of paper in order. It's just not going to happen. And how do we react to that situation? Because it's going to set the tone for the rest of the year. That first interaction will set the tone for the rest of the year. So I just want you to be mindful of that. One of the tools at the beginning of the year that I think is one of the most important ones that the Armiger work does is about evaluating ourselves and our ability to do the job that we're doing. And so they use a term called 3A+, and they basically look at three different things: my capability to do the work, the impact I have on others, and the effort that I'm giving. Capability, I have everything I need to do the job. There's a 3. A 2 is, I could do the job, but I need some training. I might be in a new job. When I first came to Elk Grove Unified, was I ready to be the superintendent of Elk Grove Unified and able to do every single thing that was expected of me on the first day? Not a chance. One of those was my impact on legislation. It wasn't something I did in El Dorado very much. Here I do it a lot, but I'm getting pretty close. I think I could be a 3 someday, so working on it. Impact is a big deal. Do I have a positive impact on each person I interact with on a daily basis? Or do I have good days and bad days? Do I have good hours and bad hours? And depending on what frame of mind I'm in at the time, that's how I impact people. A C is if you crush people all day, every day. If you work around people that crush people all day, every day, it just kills you. If you're that person, it's a terrible place to be. The last one is effort. And no one knows this but you. But I said at the beginning, we're about improving outcomes for kids. The only way I know how to do that is if we, the adults, get better at the work we do. So that's working on your capability. That's working on your impact. And that's you giving a 9 or a 10 every single day. That's the expectation. So capability, impact, and effort. Those are the three things. And as you walk away today, if you think about, do I have the capabilities to do the job that's in front of me right now? How many people are ready to teach the history social science curriculum right now? Probably nobody feels like a 3 right now. That's okay. You have the capability to do it. You need some training, you need some time, but you'll be ready to do it. But the effort, The 9 or 10, you have complete control over that. So with that, we'll let you go, because I know we're headed off to your other session, so thank you very much.
Yes.